Frost and Fire, A Christmas Romance. Chapter 1. Lucas Thorne kept the thermostat at 62 degrees. His sister said it was punishing. His housekeeper, when she'd still worked for him, had called it miserable. Lucas called it economical, though economy had nothing to do with it. The cold kept visitors away. The cold kept him alert, kept him from sinking into the furniture and forgetting that warmth was temporary and comfort was a lie. He stood at the window of his study, watching November snow dust the estate grounds. Each flake dissolved into the layer already blanketing the 40 acres. Behind him, the stone hearth sat empty. Logs stacked beside it, matches in the drawer, kindling in the iron basket. Everything ready, he never lit it. His phone buzzed. The third time in 10 minutes. He turned it face down without looking. The door opened. No knock. Never a knock with Morgan. She carried 2 mugs, steam rising into the cold air. She set one on his desk with the kind of precise, controlled movement that meant she was furious. You can't ignore the mayor forever. Lucas didn't turn from the window. Watch me. The council voted. Grandfather's will is binding. She dropped into the leather chair across from his desk. Her red scarf was bright against her black coat. You host the Christmas festival, or the estate goes to the Historical Society. You have until December 1st. That's 3 days. Let them have it. The words came out harsh. He meant them. Morgan's expression said she still didn't believe him after 3 weeks of identical conversations. This house has been in our family for 6 generations, Morgan said. Then grandfather shouldn't have attached strings, Lucas spat. His desk held only his laptop and phone. No photographs, no personal items, nothing that invited questions. He had no right. He had every right. It was his house. Morgan picked up her mug. He wanted you to engage with the community again. It's been 5 years, Lucas. The words hit hard. Don't. Fine, she said, setting her mug down. Coffee slopped over the rim onto his desk. But the festival happens with or without your cooperation. If you refuse, you lose everything. If you agree, you let them use the grounds for 3 weeks in December. The event company will handle everything. Event company, he sat. Riley Nash. She runs a firm out of Portland. The mayor hired her for this specifically. Apparently, she's supposed to be excellent. Morgan stood and buttoned her coat. She arrives tomorrow morning to assess the property. 9 o'clock. Try not to scare her off. I'm not interested in being pleasant, he scoffed. Yes, I've noticed. Morgan walked to the door. She's bringing her full proposal. If you approve it, the festival happens. If you don't, you have to provide written justification to the town council for each rejection. They'll override you anyway, and you'll look petty doing it. Lucas said nothing. Morgan left. The coffee she'd brought was still hot. He could smell cinnamon. He pushed it aside and opened his laptop, letting work emails fill his screen. Requests, reports, merger proposals. Things with rules, clear parameters. Unlike people, unlike grief, unlike the date he refused to mark on any calendar. But that lived in his bones regardless. December 23rd, 5 years. The snow outside fell harder. He'd closed off the east wing 2 years earlier, kept finding himself standing in doorways, half convinced he could hear Cloris in the next room. Her laugh, her terrible singing, her footsteps. Better to lock those doors. Better to live in 6 rooms of a 40-room house and pretend the rest didn't exist. His phone buzzed again. He turned it face down. The coffee went cold before he went to bed. Riley Nash had planned 73 events in 5 years. She'd handled temperamental clients, impossible deadlines, and once, a bride who'd wanted live swans that escaped during the ceremony and terrorized the groom's elderly aunt. She'd built her business from a single wedding and a lot of nerve, and now she was being hired to save a Christmas festival for a town she'd never visited, and a client who, according to the mayor, doesn't want to be saved. Which was fine. Riley didn't save people. She saved events. She parked her van in the circular drive at 8:45. Early, always early. She'd learned that lesson when a late arrival cost her a $20,000 contract and nearly tanked her business before it started. Thorne Estate loomed above her, grey stone and dark windows. The architecture was Victorian, beautiful in that severe way that suggested the house had opinions about who belonged there. Turrets rose from the corners, no wreaths on the doors, no lights in the windows, not even a branch of evergreen tied to the iron gates. Riley grabbed her tablet and portfolio. She'd dressed carefully that morning. Black pants, cream sweater, red blazer. Professional, but approachable. Her dark hair pulled back so it wouldn't distract from her face when she smiled, when she convinced people that her vision was worth trusting. The front steps were spotless. Someone maintained the place well. She pressed the doorbell. It echoed inside. Nothing. She pressed it again. The morning air turned her breath to fog. She'd grown up with Maine winters, but 6 years in Oregon had softened her to cold. She pulled her blazer tighter. The door opened. A man filled the doorway, tall, over 6 feet, dark hair that needed cutting. He wore jeans and a grey sweater that looked expensive in that understated way that meant it definitely was. His jaw was defined, his eyes darker, and he looked at her the way someone might look at a subpoena. Riley Nash. She extended her hand, smiling her professional smile. "We have a 9 o'clock appointment." "You're early." He didn't take her hand. She lowered it, kept the smile. Traffic was lighter than I expected. Lucas Thorne. He stepped back from the door. Not an invitation exactly, more like he couldn't figure out a polite way to refuse one. Riley entered. The foyer was vast. Vaulted ceiling, chandelier, dark wood floor that gleamed despite the gloom. A staircase curved upward. No Christmas tree, no garland, not even a festive doormat. "You can set your things there." He gestured to a narrow table. Riley set down her portfolio but kept her tablet. "Thank you for meeting with me." "It wasn't any choice of mine," he muttered. "Right." Riley pulled up the preliminary proposal on her tablet. Difficult clients were fine. She'd handled difficult people before. "I've reviewed the town council's requirements. The grounds are perfect for a festival. I'd like to walk the property if that works for you." Lucas looked at her tablet, then at her face. His eyes were grey, she realized. No, silver with little flecks of blue. "How long will this take?" "The walk?" "About an hour. Then we can discuss specifics." She smiled again, bigger this time. He didn't smile back. "Fine." He turned and walked toward the back of the house. She followed, taking in details, the formal dining room they passed through, spotless, the kithuang that looked like it hadn't seen a proper meal in months. Everything clean, everything devoid of personality. The grandfather clock in the hallway had stopped at 3:17. Not a single cobweb stretched between the chandelier crystals. Lucas opened a back door onto a stone terrace. The snow had stopped, but the sky was heavy with the promise of more. The terrace overlooked a sloping lawn that led to a frozen pond, and beyond that, woods. The festival would primarily use this lower area. Riley gestured toward the lawn. Vendor booths around the perimeter, center stage for performances, possibly an icy skating area on the pond if it's structurally sound. Lucas went rigid. "No." "We'd bring in an engineer to assess it first," Riley continued, checking her tablet. "Make sure the ice is thick enough and—" "I said no." His voice cut sharp across the terrace. "Not the pond." Riley looked up from her tablet. "It's the perfect location for skating. Families would love it. We could string lights around the perimeter, set up a warming station. Find somewhere else." Lucas turned away from the view. "There is nowhere else. The pond is the only flat area that naturally freezes." Riley kept her tone professional. "Mr. Thorne, I understand you have concerns, but—" "You don't understand anything." He faced her again. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched at his sides. "The pond is off limits." Riley closed her tablet. I need a reason. The town council approved the skating rink. If you want to veto it, you need to provide written justification. I don't need to justify anything. It's my property. He was loud but not quite yelling. Actually, you do. Your grandfather's will requires you to accommodate the festival. The council can override your objections if they're arbitrary. Riley stepped closer. Is this arbitrary, or do you have a legitimate safety concern? Lucas stared at her. It hasn't been used in years. It could be unstable. That's why we bring in an engineer. If it's unsafe, we won't use it. But if it's structurally sound, I need it for the festival. Riley met his eyes. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I have a job to do. And that job requires using your pond. No. Why not? Riley asked. Because I said so. That's not good enough. Riley crossed her arms. Look, I get that you don't want this festival. You've made that very clear. But it's happening whether you cooperate or not. So you can either work with me and have some control over how it goes, or you can fight me on every single thing and still lose. Your choice. Lucas took a step toward her. He was taller by half a foot, and he used the height now, looking down at her. You don't get to come onto my property and tell me what I have to do. Like it or not, that's my job. We're having a skating pond. That's that, she retorted. Her voice was louder, perhaps harsher than she intended. He stood silent. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then she continued. The town wants this to run for 3 weeks. Opening weekend December 7th and 8th. Then every weekend through the month. Tree lighting ceremony, caroling events, Christmas market, photos with Santa, hot cocoa stations. Still no response. We're projecting 500 per weekend day, maybe 1,000 for the tree lighting. Riley turned her tablet, showing him the preliminary layout. Parking would be in the upper field near the main road. We'd run shuttles to avoid congestion near the house. Lucas glanced at the diagram. His face showed nothing, but she noticed his jaw tense. I've already secured most of the vendors, she continued, careful to keep her voice steady and professional. Local craftspeople, food trucks, a few national chains that want booth space. The revenue split is 60% to the town, 40% to you as the property owner. I don't want the money, he barked. Riley blinked. I'm sorry. Give it to the Historical Society. The library. I don't care, he said. What else? She regrouped, making a mental note. The town council has requested that the first floor be open for tours during festival weekends. Just the public rooms. The library, the parlor, maybe the dining room. No, it would only be a few hours each day and... No, he said again. Riley made a note on her tablet. The mayor had warned her about this. I'll need that in writing for the council. They may override you. Let them try. Lucas started walking toward the pond. Riley followed, reassessing. She'd dealt with reluctant clients before, but this felt different. This wasn't someone being difficult for control. This was someone who genuinely didn't care, and somehow that was worse. They reached the pond. The ice was thick and opaque, the surface as smooth as glass. She took the opportunity to try again. This would be perfect for skating, she said, studying the dimensions. If the engineer approves, of course. We could string lights around the perimeter, set up a warming station right there. She pointed to a flat area near the edge. Do whatever you want, he snapped. I need your approval on the plans. Riley turned to look at him. This is your property. Then consider it approved. He turned and started walking back toward the house. Riley hurried to keep up. Mr. Thorne, I need you to actually review the proposal. There are liability issues, noise considerations, environmental concerns. Lucas stopped walking. When he turned to face her, something in his expression made her stop talking. What do you want from me? He asked. The question wasn't hostile, it sounded genuine, almost lost. Your input, Riley answered carefully. This is going to happen on your land, whether you like it or not. You should have a say in how it looks and feels. I don't care how it looks or feels. I just want it over with. he answered. Riley felt her professional patience start to fray. She'd been polite. She'd been understanding. Fine. But I need signatures on about 30 documents. I need access for my crew starting December 1st. I need to know which areas are off limits. I need a contact number where I can reach you when things go wrong. And Mr. Thorne, things will go wrong. So you can hate this all you want, but you have to participate. He stared at her. Most people looked away when she got firm like this. He didn't. 9 to 5, he said finally. Your crew can be here 9 to 5 on weekdays. No weekends, no evenings. The house interior is completely off limits except the Kit Huang and the West Hall bathroom. You can use those, nothing else. The town council wants tours, she reminded him. They can want all they like. He turned toward her. Riley typed notes. Fine. I'll document your refusal. What about a phone number? Lucas pulled out his phone. Give me yours. She recited it. A moment later, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Just the letter T. That's me, he said, and thanks. The word came out drier than she'd intended. Something flickered across his face. It might have been amusement, gone too fast to tell. Anything else? He asked. The tree lighting ceremony. The mayor wants you to flip the switch, she read from her tablet. No, he said flatly. It's symbolic, Riley pressed. The estate owner lighting the town's Christmas tree. It would mean a lot to people. No, he repeated. Why? She knew she was pushing past professional boundaries, but something about his complete withdrawal bothered her in a way she couldn't explain. His jaw clenched. Because I don't perform for crowds. I'm not a trained circus animal. It's not a performance. It's flipping a switch. Riley lowered her voice. Look, I understand you don't want this festival. But these people are your neighbors. This town has history with your family. Your grandfather clearly cared about that. You don't know anything about my grandfather. His voice went cold and sharp. You don't know anything about me or my family or what any of this means. You're here to do a job. So do it and leave me out of it. Riley stepped back. She'd crossed a line and she knew it. You're right. I apologize. Lucas looked away toward the house. Send me the documents. I'll sign them. Thank you, she replied. They walked back in silence. Lucas let her out through the front door without another word. Riley sat in her van for a full minute before starting the engine, her hands tight on the steering wheel. The mayor had said Lucas Thorne was difficult. The mayor had not said he was drowning. Lucas signed the documents that night, all 30 pages, scanning them and emailing them back to Riley Nash without reading most of the details. Morgan had reviewed them. That was enough. He went to bed early and woke at 3 in the morning. No dream he could remember, just the sudden jolt into consciousness, sheets twisted around his legs, his t-shirt soaked with sweat. He got up and went downstairs to his study. The house was too quiet at night. During the day he could work, could focus on emails and contracts and the business that kept him busy. At night, the quiet closed in from all sides. Sometimes he'd stand perfectly still and strain to hear something, anything. But there was only the hum of the refrigerator and the wind against the windows. He opened his laptop and worked until dawn, until the sun turned the snow outside from grey to white to gold. Chapter 2. Riley's phone rang at 7:30 a.m. Her investor, Patricia Huang, never called before 9 unless something was wrong. Patricia, hi. The Portland Tribune just ran a piece on failed event companies. 3 bankruptcies in 6 months. Patricia's tone was stern. I'm concerned about the timeline on your expansion. Riley switched the phone to speaker and pulled up her financial projections. The numbers looked worse at 7:30 in the morning. The Thorne estate contract puts us ahead of schedule. We're fine. Are you? Because I'm hearing rumors that he might back out, Patricia offered. Who the hell had Patricia been talking to? He signed the contracts. We're moving forward. Riley, I've invested a significant amount in your company. If this festival fails... It won't fail, Riley insisted. If this festival fails, she repeated, then I need to reconsider the expansion funding. I can't pour money into a business that can't manage difficult clients. Riley's stomach dropped. She'd been counting on that funding. New office space, 2 additional staff members, better equipment. I've got this under control, she insisted. I hope so. I'll want to see photos and attendance numbers by December 15th, Patricia insisted. The call ended. Riley stared at her financial spreadsheet. She was leveraged. If Patricia pulled out, if this festival flopped, she pushed the thoughts aside. The festival would be a success. It had to be. Lucas Thorne's cooperation would make things easier, but she'd run successful events with hostile clients before. She just needed him to stay out of the way. Lucas was halfway through signing the documents when his phone rang. Unknown number. Lucas Thorne, he answered. Mr. Thorne, this is Eleanor Voss from the Coastal Historical Preservation Society. I'm calling about the Christmas festival planned for your property. Lucas set down his pen. What about it? We have significant concerns, she began. The Thorne estate has historical designation status. Any commercial use requires our approval. This festival was never submitted to our committee. The town council approved it, he retorted. My grandfather's will. Your grandfather's will doesn't supersede state preservation law, Mr. Thorne. We're filing for an injunction. The festival cannot proceed until we've reviewed environmental impact, structural assessments, and visitor management protocols. That process typically takes 6 to 8 months, she said. Lucas looked at the contract in front of him. Riley's signature already on it. The mayor's, his own space waiting. What do you want from me, he asked. A meeting. You, the event coordinator, our committee, and the town council. We can schedule for next week, she offered. The festival starts in 3 weeks, she said. Then I suggest you make time, Mr. Thorne. Otherwise the festival doesn't happen at all, she warned. The call ended. Lucas stared at his phone, then dialed Riley. She answered on the first ring. Hi, did you finish the documents? We have a problem, he told her. They met in the town hall conference room on a grey Wednesday morning. Riley arrived early with printed binders, impact assessments, liability coverage, vendor certifications, everything she'd prepared for the town council, plus additional documentation she'd pulled together in 2 sleepless days. Eleanor Voss was a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back tight. She sat flanked by 3 other committee members and the mayor, all looking at Riley and Lucas like they'd personally set fire to a historical landmark. Let's be clear, Eleanor began. The Thorne estate is one of 3 properties in this county with Class A historical designation. That means any alterations, any commercial use, any public access requires our explicit approval. The property has been in my family for 6 generations, Lucas said. I'm aware of its historical significance. Are you? Eleanor scoffed. Because this festival plan shows no consideration for preservation concerns. Hundreds of people trampling grounds, structures erected without archaeological surveys, commercial vehicles on historic driveways. Miss Voss. Riley opened her binder. I've coordinated events at 16 historical properties. I'm familiar with preservation requirements. Here's our environmental impact assessment, conducted by Morrison Environmental Services. Here's structural engineering reports for any installations. Here's our visitor management protocol, including designated pathways that avoid any archaeological zones identified in the 1987 estate survey. She slid copies across the table. Eleanor's expression didn't change, but she took the documents. We've also secured additional liability coverage specifically for historical properties, Riley continued. And I've contracted with Heritage Preservation Consulting to provide on-site monitoring throughout the festival. I understand your concerns, Riley said. This estate matters to this community. It matters to Mr. Thorne. I'm not here to damage it. I'm here to share it in a way that respects its history. Eleanor flipped through the binder. The silence stretched. Finally, she looked up. We'll need to inspect the site before any work begins, and we reserve the right to halt operations if we observe any violations, Eleanor insisted. That's fair, Riley said. Thank you. We'll be out tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Eleanor stood. Don't waste our time, Mr. Thorne. After the committee members left, Riley slumped into a chair. The mayor, who'd been silent throughout, let out a breath. That went better than expected, she said. Did it? Riley's hands were shaking. She balled them into fists to steady them. She's going to be watching everything we do. You were good in there, Lucas said. Professional? Riley looked up at him. She hadn't expected the compliment. I was terrified, she admitted. Couldn't tell. He paused. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of this festival nonsense. But if it doesn't happen, I lose my grandfather's house. So thank you for fighting for this. Something had shifted in his expression. Less guarded, more present. You fought too, she said. You showed up. Barely, he admitted. It counts, she said. The Historical Society inspection lasted 3 hours. Eleanor Voss walked every inch of the property with a clipboard, making notes, asking questions. Riley followed, answering carefully, showing permits and plans. Lucas stayed in his study but watched through the window. At noon, Eleanor declared the setup conditionally acceptable with a list of 7 restrictions. Riley agreed to all of them. Riley's crew arrived on December 1st at 9 o'clock sharp. 6 people with 3 vans full of equipment. Riley directed them from the center of the lawn, her tablet in one hand, the other gesturing toward different sections as she called out instructions. Lucas watched from the study window, then went back to work. He tried to focus on emails. Lasted about 20 minutes before looking again. By noon, they'd erected 10 booth frames. A knock on the back door startled him. Riley stood there, red-cheeked from the cold. We need to run power lines to the booth area. There's an exterior outlet on the north side. Can we use it? She asked. If you need to, he answered. She studied him for a moment. Have you eaten lunch? The question surprised him. Why? Because it's noon and you look like you haven't left that study all day. She shifted her weight. I bought sandwiches for my crew. There's extra. I'm fine too, he said. Suit yourself. She turned to leave. Wait. He didn't know why he said it. What kind? Riley looked back, and there was something in her expression. Amusement, maybe, or surprise. Turkey and Swiss, ham and cheddar. One vegetarian with hummus from the deli around the corner. His stomach chose that moment to remind him he'd skipped breakfast. I'll take the turkey, he said, and come on then. She turned and walked across the lawn. He followed her. Her crew had set up a couple of folding tables with coolers and thermoses. They looked up when he approached, then quickly looked away. Riley pulled a wrapped sandwich out of one of the coolers and handed it to him, then poured coffee from a thermos into a paper cup. Thank, he said. No problem, she smiled. The crew ate standing, talking about the afternoon's work. Riley answered questions about the stage area, the weather forecast, where to store supplies overnight. Lucas bit into his sandwich. It was good. Fresh bread, crisp lettuce. He was standing on his own lawn in the cold, eating lunch with strangers. He couldn't remember the last time he'd done something like that. The pond, one of the crew members, a woman with short blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses, said. Did the engineer clear it? She's coming tomorrow, Riley answered. The blonde woman glanced at Lucas. The ice looks thick. It is. That pond freezes solid every winter, he said. Used to skate on it when I was a boy. Must get cold out here, the woman tried. It does. Lucas swallowed. Why was he standing even there? The heating system is from 1982. I've been meaning to upgrade it. That's a project, a man named Marcus interjected. My parents just did theirs. Cost a fortune. Yeah, I've gotten some quotes. They're not encouraging, he found himself answering. He was making small talk. About heating systems, with strangers. Cloris would have found this hilarious. Riley was watching him with a peculiar expression. When their eyes met across the table, Lucas looked away first. The crew finished lunch and got back to work. Lucas carried his empty cup and wrapper to the table. Where do I put these, Ma? He asked. There's a trash bin over there. Riley pointed to the end of the tables. Thanks for the food, he said. You're welcome. He discarded his trash and went back inside. From the study window, he watched them work until the light faded. The engineer cleared the pond for skating on December 4th. Riley called to tell him, "The pond is safe. We can move forward with the skating area," she told him. "We're having a skating pond." "That's that, remember?" he replied. "I'm sorry," she apologized. "I shouldn't have said that." He didn't reply. He only nodded. "I need to coordinate with the rental company for skates. They'll deliver on the 6th. Can someone be here to receive them?" "I'll be here," he said. "Great. Also, the town council responded to your refusal about the house tours." She paused. "They're overriding you. The first floor needs to be open on festival weekends." Lucas closed his eyes. Of course they were. "Fine." "Fine?" She sounded surprised, like she'd expected pushback. "Is there anything else?" he asked. "No, that's it. Thanks. I'll make sure tour groups stay in designated areas. We'll use stanchions and ropes. No one will bother you," she assured. "I won't be here anyway," he said. Riley's tone changed, less professional. "Where will you be?" "Somewhere else." He ended the call before she could push. He meant to leave for Seattle, had the hotel booked, had told Morgan he'd be gone. But on December 6th, the day before the festival, something stopped him. He stayed. Riley woke at 5 a.m. on December 7th and checked her phone. The weather alert made her stomach drop. Severe thunderstorm watch, 60% chance of severe weather 2 to 6 p.m., wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour possible, heavy rain, potential for property damage. She pulled up 3 different weather services. They all said the same thing. A fast-moving system, unexpected, forecast had changed overnight. The storm would hit right in the middle of opening day. Riley called Marcus from the crew at 5:30. "I saw it," he said before she could speak. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." Riley stared at the radar on her laptop. The red and orange blob sat over the coast, moving inland. "If we cancel, we disappoint 500 people, lose opening day momentum, and my investor thinks I can't handle a simple festival." "If we don't cancel and that storm hits, it could be bad," Marcus warned. "We risk property damage, potential injuries, and your investor thinks you have poor judgment." Riley closed her eyes. What should she do? She looked at the weather map, looked at her schedule, vendors already on their way, families planning their day, the mayor expecting a successful opening, Patricia Huang waiting for photos. She thought about Eleanor Voss watching for any sign of failure, about Lucas finally agreeing to stay, about everything riding on this festival. "We open," Riley said, "but we prep for the worst. Get extra tie-downs on every structure. Have a shelter plan ready. I want everyone briefed on evacuation procedures before we open the gates." "Copy that." Riley called Lucas at 6 a.m. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice rough with sleep. "What's wrong?" he croaked. "Storm warning. 50% chance of severe weather this afternoon," she said. Silence. Then, "You're cancelling." "No, I'm opening. But I wanted you to know, if it hits, we might need to use the house for shelter. I know that's not what you want." "I said cancel," he reaffirmed, his voice stronger now. "I can't cancel," she answered. "Look, I didn't tell you this before, but the future of my company depends on this festival. My investor has doubts, and if I don't pull this off, I stand to lose everything." There was silence for a long while. Her heart beat faster. And then he answered, "If people need shelter, use the house." "Are you sure?" she asked. "Riley," his voice was firm, "do what you need to do. I trust your judgment." After she hung up, she sat in her van and hoped her judgment was worth trusting. The festival opened at 10 a.m. under grey skies. Riley watched the radar every 15 minutes. The storm was still there, still moving, still unpredictable. Families arrived. Children ran toward the pond. Vendors set up in booths reinforced with extra cables and stakes. The carolers took the stage at 11 for the first performance. Lucas stayed in his study but checked the weather himself, watched the storm track, watched Riley on the lawn, tablet in hand, eyes on the sky. At 1 p.m., Riley's phone rang. Patricia Huang. "Riley, I'm 40 minutes out. Looking forward to seeing everything," she said. Riley's stomach churned. "Great. See you soon." She tried to sound chipper. She hung up and checked the radar. The storm had shifted. Not north, east, straight toward them. Marcus appeared at her side. "Boss." "I see it." She looked at him. "We've got maybe an hour. 90 minutes if we're lucky," Marcus said. Riley looked around at the festival. There were about 200 people browsing booths, skating, laughing. Children eating cotton candy. The Christmas tree stood tall on stage, lights sparkling. "We don't close," she said, "but we prepare. Get the crew ready. Make sure every family knows where the shelter areas are, and Marcus, I need you to personally check every single structural tie-down now." At 2 p.m., Lucas looked up from his laptop. The light through the window had changed. He walked to the glass and looked out. The western sky was black. He grabbed his phone and pulled up Riley's number, but before he could call, the wind hit. It slammed across the estate hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the glass, he watched vendor tents buck and strain against their anchors. Riley was already moving, radio in hand, shouting into it. Her crew scattered. People started gathering children, looking uncertain. Then the rain came. Lucas was out the door and running before he decided to. Down the stairs, out the back, into wind that nearly knocked him over. Rain hit like needles. He found Riley at the stage. The Christmas tree was swaying, 15 feet of decorated pine tilting against its anchors. Marcus and 2 others held guide wires, trying to stabilize it. "Get everyone inside the house," Lucas shouted over the wind. Riley's head snapped toward him. Her face was white. "Lucas! Now!" He grabbed her arm. "This is what we planned for. Get them inside." Riley stared at him for 1 second. Then she lifted her radio. "All crew, evacuation protocol. Direct everyone to the main house. Move." Lucas ran to the stage. He grabbed a guide wire. The tree was coming down. He could feel it in the tension of the rope, the way the structure groaned. Marcus saw him and nodded. "On 3, we cut it loose," Marcus shouted. "Let it fall away from the crowd." They released the wires. The tree toppled, crashed onto the empty stage platform. The sound of splintering wood carried over the storm. Lucas turned and saw Riley directing the last of the families toward the terrace. A vendor tent ripped free of its moorings and tumbled across the lawn. She didn't flinch, just kept moving people toward shelter. 200 people crowded into his entry hall, his parlor, his dining room. Water pooled on floors. Children cried. Adults looked shaken. Lucas found towels in the linen closet and started handing them out. Riley appeared next to him, soaked through, shaking. "I'm so sorry." Her voice was barely audible. "I knew. The forecast warned us, and I opened anyway. I gambled, and I was wrong, and now—" "Stop!" Lucas grabbed her shoulders. "You made a judgment call. Sometimes those don't work out. That's not failure, that's just reality. I could have hurt people. I could have. But you didn't. Because you had a plan. You prepped for this. Everyone's safe, dictant," he said. Riley looked at him, water dripping from her hair, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Your house. It's just a house. People matter more." Lucas paused, surprised by his own words. Riley's phone rang. She pulled it from her pocket, saw the name, and her face went even paler. "It's Patricia, my investor. She's probably here. She's going to see all of this and—" "Answer it," he said. "Answer it," she repeated. He only nodded in reply. She took a deep breath and answered. "Patricia, hi." Lucas couldn't hear the other side. He watched Riley's face, the way her jaw tightened, the way she closed her eyes. "Yes, we're in crisis management right now." Pause. "I understand." Longer pause. "Tomorrow morning. Yes, I understand." She ended the call and looked at Lucas. She's pulling the funding. I know it. She's at a hotel 20 minutes south. She's coming here tomorrow to assess the situation, which means she's already decided. Riley threw her hands up. I just lost my business. Lucas looked through the doorway at his house full of people, at Riley's crew handing out towels, at the mayor organizing children into a sing-along in the parlor, at Marcus explaining to someone's grandfather exactly what had happened with the stage structure, at Riley, who was soaked and exhausted and had taken a risk that hadn't paid off but had still done everything right when it mattered. We fix this, Lucas said. Right now. Where's your crew? Lucas, there's no fixing this. Half the festival is destroyed. My investor is pulling out. It's over. It's not over until we say it's over. He pulled out his phone. Where's Marcus? In the parlor, I think, but get him. Get your whole crew. Meet me in the study in 5 minutes. Lucas was already texting his sister. We're going to rebuild this whole thing tonight if we have to. Riley stared at him. You're serious? Completely. But we need to move fast. Can you do that? Something shifted in her expression. The despair receded, replaced by that professional competence he'd seen in the Historical Society meeting. Yes, I can do that. Then let's go, he commanded. At 9 p.m., Riley's crew and a dozen volunteers from town stood in Lucas's dining room, looking at hand-drawn diagrams spread across the table. Lucas had pulled building plans for the stage structure from his grandfather's files. Riley was on her phone with vendors, figuring out what could be salvaged. The frame is solid, Marcus reported, coming in from outside with a flashlight. But we'll need to reinforce these joints. He pointed at the diagram. I have steel brackets in the equipment barn, Lucas said, left over from when we rebuilt the fencing. A woman appeared in the doorway. Dark hair, Lucas's eyes. I brought industrial tarps and rope. And 10 more people from the hospital who want to help, she said. Morgan. Lucas stood. Thank you. This is our family's property. Our community. She looked at Riley. I'm Morgan, Lucas's sister. Tell me where you need us. They divided into teams. Lucas led one group to salvage undamaged booth frames. Riley coordinated with vendors about replacement inventory. Morgan organized the hospital volunteers to string new lights. Marcus and his crew rebuilt the stage platform. Lucas worked through the night, hauling brackets, hammering frames, stringing cable. His hands blistered. His shoulders ached. He couldn't remember the last time he'd done physical labor like this. He also couldn't remember the last time he'd felt useful. Around midnight, the mayor showed up with coffee and sandwiches. I heard you needed help, she said, holding up the snacks. Around 1 a.m., Lucas found Riley sitting on a hay bale in the equipment barn, staring at her tablet. Her hands were shaking. Riley looked up at him. I made the wrong call, Lucas. I saw that forecast and I opened anyway because I was afraid. Afraid of losing momentum, afraid of looking weak, afraid Patricia would pull out. And now she's pulling out anyway and the festival is destroyed and it's my fault. Lucas sat down next to her. You made a decision with incomplete information. That storm was supposed to track north. You had a 50% chance of being fine. But I wasn't fine. I was wrong. You were unlucky. There's a difference. He paused. You know what I see when I look out there? I see your crew working at 1 a.m. because they believe in you. I see community members who drove here in the middle of the night to help. I see a woman who had an evacuation plan ready because she prepared for the worst even while hoping for the best. That's not failure, Riley. That's leadership. Riley wiped her eyes. I could lose everything. Maybe, but not because you weren't good enough. If you lose it, it's because an investor doesn't understand that sometimes good decisions have bad outcomes. Lucas took her hand. And for what it's worth, I think you're the most competent person I've ever met. Patricia's an idiot if she pulls out. Riley laughed. Thank you. She leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a while, listening to the sound of hammering in the distance. The mumble of voices. Come on, Lucas said finally. Let's go see if Morgan's found more people to boss around. By 3 a.m., they'd rebuilt the stage platform. Morgan's friend showed up with a replacement tree, smaller than the original, but still 15 feet. They hauled it across the lawn and anchored it to the reinforced stage. At 4 a.m., Lucas stood on the terrace and surveyed the grounds. Not perfect. Not what it had been at 9 a.m. yesterday, but whole, functional. The booths stood straight. The lights glowed. Volunteers worked, decorating the tree. Riley came up beside him. She was covered in mud and sawdust, her hair falling out of its ponytail, exhaustion in every line of her body. "We did it," she said. "You did it," he corrected. "I just carried brackets. You did a lot more than that." Riley turned to look at him. "You opened your house. You called your sister. You organized people I've never met to help rebuild a festival you never wanted. Why?" Lucas thought about it, about how he'd felt watching the storm hit, watching Riley direct people to safety, watching her take responsibility for a decision that could have gone either way. "Because you showed up for me," he said finally, "multiple times. Even when I didn't make it easy, I figured it was time I showed up for you." They stood together on the terrace until the sun started to rise. Patricia Huang arrived at the festival at 8 a.m. sharp. Riley met her at the entrance, showered and changed, but running on 2 hours of sleep. Patricia surveyed the grounds, the booths, the stage, the lights. Families were already arriving. Word had spread about the rebuild, and people wanted to support it. "Show me the numbers," Patricia said. Riley pulled up her tablet, showed attendance figures from yesterday before the storm hit, showed projected losses, showed the plan for reopening today at noon instead of 10 a.m. Patricia studied the data. "Walk me through your decision yesterday morning. You saw the storm forecast. Why did you open?" Riley took a breath. Time for honesty. "Because I was afraid. Of losing momentum. Of disappointing people. Of looking like I couldn't handle adversity. The forecast gave me a 50% chance the storm would miss us, and I took it because I thought the risk was worth it." "Was it?" Patricia raised an eyebrow. "No, I was wrong. We lost half a day of revenue, sustained property damage, and had to do an emergency rebuild," Riley admitted. "I made a bad call. But I also had a contingency plan. Every family knew where the shelter areas were. My crew had structural tie-downs prepared. When the storm hit, we executed the evacuation in under 5 minutes with 0 injuries, and then we rebuilt overnight." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. She walked toward the stage, examining the new tree, the reinforced platform. She watched Lucas helping someone carry packages to their car. "That's the property owner?" she asked, clearly surprised. "Yes," Riley confirmed. "I heard he was difficult." "Uninvolved," Patricia said. "He was." Riley paused. "He saved this festival. Opened his house, organized the rebuild, worked all night. Without him, we would have failed." Patricia turned to look at her. "I've been an investor for 20 years. You want to know what I've learned? The difference between a good entrepreneur and a great one isn't whether they make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The difference is what they do after." She gestured at the festival. "You made a judgment call that didn't work out. Then you executed a flawless evacuation, organized an overnight rebuild, and reopened 12 hours later. That is what I invested in." Riley looked at her. "So you're not pulling the funding?" "No. We'll discuss the expansion timeline next week, but Riley?" Patricia's expression was serious. "Don't make a habit of gambling with people's safety. I don't care how good your contingency plans are. Next time, if the forecast looks bad, you close." "Understood. Thank you." After Patricia left, Riley stood in the middle of the festival and let herself feel it. Relief, exhaustion, gratitude. Something bumped her elbow. Lucas holding 2 paper cups of hot chocolate. "How did it go?" he asked. "I still have my investor." "Barely." Riley took the cup. "She told me not to gamble with people's safety again." "Good advice. I'm sorry, Lucas. For putting your property at risk. For opening when I should have closed. For Dash. Stop apologizing, Lucas said. You did your best with the information you had. That's all anyone can do. Riley looked at him. Really looked at him. At the exhaustion in his face, the sawdust still on his sweater, the unkempt hair that showed he hadn't slept. Thank you, she said, for everything. I know this wasn't easy for you. No, it wasn't, he admitted, but things that are worthwhile are seldom easy. They stood together, drinking hot chocolate, watching families arrive for the reopening. Riley's shoulder brushed his arm. Lucas didn't move away. Friday night, Riley said. I'm having a small gathering at my office. For the crew and some friends. 7 o'clock. Will you come? Lucas looked at her, at the hope in her eyes, the exhaustion underneath. Yes. Really? She asked. Really? He smiled. That night, after the festival closed and Riley's crew had gone home, Lucas stood in his study and looked out at the grounds. The lights glowed in the darkness. The new tree stood tall on the rebuilt stage. His house had been filled with 200 people yesterday. Strangers in his kitchen, children in his entry hall, community members in his dining room working through the night. It should have been overwhelming. Instead, it had felt almost right. He went to bed that night and slept straight through until morning. No nightmares, no waking at 3 a.m., just deep, dreamless sleep. And for the first time in 5 years, he woke up looking forward to the day ahead. Chapter 3. Riley's office sat above the bakery on Main Street. The space was small but adequate. 2 desks, a conference table, filing cabinets along one wall. She'd pushed the furniture against the walls and set up a folding table with drinks and snacks. String lights hung from the ceiling. Someone had brought a Bluetooth speaker and festive music played in the background. Her crew arrived first. Marcus brought beer. The woman with the wire-rimmed glasses, Jenna, brought chips and salsa. 2 other crew members showed up with wine and cookies from the bakery downstairs. Riley checked her phone. 6:55. Lucas probably wasn't coming. She'd invited him 3 days ago and he'd said yes, but that didn't mean anything. People said yes to be polite and then didn't show. You keep looking at your phone. Jenna appeared at her side with a beer. Just checking the time, Riley explained. I invited someone and they aren't here yet. Who? The estate owner. Lucas? Is he coming? Jenna seemed skeptical. Riley shrugged. Maybe. At 7:15 the door opened. Lucas stood in the doorway wearing dark jeans and a grey button-down. His hair was still damp like he'd showered recently. He looked around the room with an expression Riley recognized now. Not hostile, just uncertain. You came. Riley crossed the room. I said I would, Lucas replied. I know, but I thought you might change your mind. I almost did, he confessed. Riley wanted to hug him. She settled for touching his arm. I'm glad you're here. Come get a drink. She led him to the table. Lucas took a beer, and Riley introduced him to the people he hadn't met. Marcus shook his hand. Jenna said something about the pond being perfect for skating. Lucas responded with polite answers, but he stayed, didn't bolt for the door. More people arrived. Friends from other event companies, a woman Riley had worked with at a wedding last summer, someone's boyfriend who worked in tech. The room filled with conversation and laughter. Lucas stayed near the window, beer in hand. Riley checked on him periodically. He looked uncomfortable, but not miserable. That counted for something. Around 8 o'clock, a woman arrived carrying a bottle of wine in a covered dish. She had auburn hair pulled into a half bun and wore a green sweater dress. Riley squealed. Beth! I didn't think you could make it. I got off early. Beth set down the wine and hugged Riley. Traffic was awful, but I made it. Everyone, this is Beth Carver. We worked together in Portland before I started my own business. Beth waved at the room. Her eyes landed on Lucas by the window and her smile shifted. Is that Lucas Thorne? She whispered. Yeah, I'm working the Christmas festival at his estate. Riley took the covered dish. What did you bring? Spinach artichoke dip. Still warm, Beth replied. It's sad. What happened? Riley looked up from the dish. What do you mean? You know, the accident, Beth said. Remember that awful pileup 5 years ago on the highway? Right before Christmas? His wife was in it. She was pregnant. Riley's chest tightened. The room suddenly felt too warm. I didn't know. It was all over the news. Black ice, like 10 cars involved. They said it was impossible to save everyone with how bad the weather was. Beth opened the wine. It must be hard for him this time of year. Riley looked across the room at Lucas. He was listening to Marcus explain something, his posture stiff but present. She thought about the empty hearth, the thermostat at 62 degrees, his complete withdrawal from anything Christmas-related. Beth poured wine into 2 plastic cups. I remember, because I was planning a New Year's event and everyone was talking about it. The whole town was devastated. Riley took the wine Beth offered, but didn't drink. Her mind was racing. 5 years. 5 years of Decembers. 5 years of Christmas mornings alone. 5 years of waking up to the absence of someone he loved and the child they'd been expecting. I had no idea, Riley said. How could you? He doesn't talk about it. Beth took a sip of wine. I heard he basically disappeared after. Stopped coming to anything. Closed off most of the house. People thought he might sell the estate and leave town, but he just stayed in there like some old hermit. Riley watched Lucas accept another beer from Jenna. He said something brief and Jenna laughed. He didn't smile, but he stayed in the conversation. He's doing better than I expected, Beth continued. I mean, being here at all. That's something. Yeah, Riley's voice squeaked. It is. Beth moved off to greet other guests. Riley stood by the drink table, wine in hand, trying to process what she'd just learned. Everything made sense now. The isolation, the anger, the complete resistance to the festival. He wasn't being difficult. He was surviving. She wanted to go to him, wanted to say something, but what could she say? I'm sorry seemed inadequate. I know what happened, felt invasive. Instead, she circulated through the party, refilled drinks, laughed at jokes, and tried not to stare at him. Around 9 o'clock, Lucas set down his empty beer bottle and headed for the door. Riley intercepted him in the entryway. Leaving already? She asked. I should get back, Lucas replied. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you came, she said. It was nice. He paused. Your friends are nice. They liked meeting you. Riley hesitated. She wanted to say more, but the words stuck in her throat. I'll see you Monday. For the vendor deliveries, Lucas said. Monday, 9 o'clock. He started down the stairs. Riley followed him. Lucas. He turned at the bottom. I'm glad you came, Riley said. You already said that. I know, but I mean it, she smiled. Something shifted in his expression. Not a smile exactly, but a softening. Good night, Riley. Good night. She watched through the glass door as he walked to his car. He didn't look back. Riley went upstairs and found Beth helping Jenna pack up leftover food. Did he leave? Beth asked. Yeah. He seems okay, considering what he's been through. Riley started folding chairs. Thanks for telling me. I didn't know. Considering the bad luck he's had in December, Beth clarified. Losing his brother on Christmas Eve all of those years ago. Falling through the ice on that pond, and at such a young age. It's so sad, she shook her head. His grandfather died on Christmas Day, Beth added. If I were him, this time of year would feel like a curse. His brother? Riley questioned. I met his sister, but I didn't know about his brother. Lawson, Beth said. It was big news when I was in school. They were skating on a frozen pond. Somehow, his brother fell through, and he didn't make it. Riley thought about all the times she'd pushed him to participate, to engage, to be part of the festival, about decorating his house without permission, about asking him to flip the switch at the tree lighting and forcing him to accept the skating rink. She'd been so focused on her job, on making the festival work that she hadn't considered what it might cost him. "I should have asked more questions," Riley said. "You couldn't have known. Beth carried containers to the table. You didn't grow up here. And honestly, maybe it's good. Maybe he needs someone who doesn't know about his family history and his past. Someone who doesn't treat him like he's fragile." "Maybe," Riley answered, but she wasn't sure. The party wound down. People left in groups until it was just Riley and Marcus cleaning up. "You okay, boss?" Marcus loaded bottles into a box. "I'm fine." "Why?" she asked. "You've been quiet this evening," he answered. Riley folded the tablecloth. "Beth told me about Lucas's wife." "Ah." Marcus didn't look surprised. "I figured someone would eventually." "Did you know?" she asked. "It was big news when it happened." He tied up a garbage bag. "Everything makes sense now. Why he is the way he is." Riley sat on the edge of her desk. "I pushed him so hard about the festival, about Christmas. If I'd known..." "You would have what? Backed off? Let the festival fail?" Marcus picked up the box. "You did your job. And from what I saw at the tree lighting, he's doing better. Maybe this whole thing has been good for him in some way." "Or maybe I made it worse," she said. "You didn't. Trust me." Marcus headed for the door. "He came here tonight, and that says a lot." After Marcus left, Riley turned off the lights and locked up. She walked to her car in the cold December night. The town was quiet, the shops closed, just a few cars passing on Main Street. She thought about Lucas driving home to that huge empty house, about him sitting in his study with the thermostat at 62 degrees, keeping everyone at a distance because warmth meant vulnerability, meant risk, meant loss, about a wife and baby who should have been there but weren't. Riley got in her car and pulled out her phone. She typed, "Thank you again for coming tonight. It was good to see you outside the estate." She hesitated, then hit send. 30 seconds later, her phone buzzed. "You too. See you Monday." Riley smiled and started the car. She didn't know what Monday would hold, but she knew one thing. She wouldn't treat him differently. She wouldn't look at him with pity or handle him like glass. She'd treat him exactly the way she had been, because Marcus was right. Lucas Thorne wasn't broken. He was grieving, and maybe what he needed wasn't careful handling, but someone who expected him to keep showing up anyway. Monday seemed very far away. Chapter 4. Monday morning arrived grey and cold. Riley pulled into the estate drive at 8:30. The vendor deliveries started at 9. She'd barely slept after the party, her mind replaying everything Beth had said. His wife, his brother, the pond. The pond where families were skating every weekend for the duration of the festival. Lucas appeared on the terrace around 10. He watched for a few minutes, then came down the steps. "Need help?" he called. Riley looked up from her tablet. He looked tired. "You don't have to." "I know, but I'm offering," he said. He helped unload boxes of ornaments from a truck. Riley worked beside him, hyper-aware of his presence in a way she hadn't been before. Every time their hands brushed reaching for the same box, she thought about what she knew. The accident, the brother who fell through ice, Christmas becoming the anniversary of everything he'd lost. "You're quiet today," Lucas said, setting down a box. "Tired. Long weekend." "How late did the party go?" he asked. "Past 11. Marcus stayed to help clean up." Lucas loaded another box onto the dolly. Riley marked off inventory on her tablet, trying to focus on work instead of the knowledge sitting heavy in her chest. The truck driver called for Riley's signature. She went to handle it. When she came back, Lucas was stacking the last boxes. "That's everything," Riley said. "Thank you for helping." "No problem." Lucas brushed dust off his hands, still not looking toward the pond. "I should get back to work." He walked toward the house. Riley watched him go and made a decision. She followed. "Lucas, wait." He stopped at the terrace steps and turned around. "I know about your wife," Riley blurted. "About what happened." Lucas went very still. "Beth told me. Friday night at the party." Riley kept her voice steady. "I wanted you to know that I know. I don't want it to be this secret thing between us." "What exactly did she tell you?" he asked. "That Cloris died in a car accident 5 years ago, that she was pregnant, that it was right before Christmas." Riley paused. "And about your brother. About the pond. Also, your grandfather. So now you know everything about me." "No," she replied. "I know a couple of details, events that happened in your life. I want to apologize for not asking more questions about the skating rink and why you objected." "You forced me to agree," he answered. The words hit like a slap. "I didn't know." "Would it have mattered?" Lucas asked. "You had a job to do. The festival needed the pond. My reasons didn't matter because you were going to get what you wanted either way. You were quite clear about that." Riley felt her throat tighten. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" He gestured toward the pond. "Every weekend, there are children skating on the ice where my brother died, where I proposed to Cloris. And you're right, I didn't tell you. But you didn't ask. You just demanded and threatened and told me I had no choice." "I was doing my job," Riley said, but the words sounded weak even to her. "Yeah, you were." Lucas looked at her with an expression of almost disdain. "Because that's the only thing that matters. I'm sorry. For pushing. For not asking why." Riley took a breath. "But I can't undo it now. The pond is being used. Families are skating. And I need to know, are you okay? Can you handle this?" Lucas laughed. "Handle it?" "Riley, I've been handling it for 5 years. What's a couple more weeks?" "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer you're getting." He turned and went inside. The door closed behind him. Not slammed, just firmly shut. Riley stood on the terrace and felt sick. The festival ran Saturday and Sunday. Riley worked both days, coordinating vendors and managing the skating rink, and trying not to think about Lucas alone in his study, watching families enjoy something that caused him pain. He didn't come outside once. Sunday evening, after the last family had left and her crew was packing up, Riley knocked on the back door. No answer. She knocked again. "Lucas, I know you're in there." The door opened. Lucas looked worse than he had Monday. Dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed, wearing the same sweater she'd seen him in yesterday. "What?" he said. "Have you eaten today?" "I'm not hungry," he answered, turning away from her. "That's not what I asked." Riley held up a bag. "I brought Chinese food." "You're going to eat some of it." Riley --. "I'm not leaving until you eat. So you can either let me in or I can stand here in the cold looking pathetic until you feel guilty enough to cave," she asserted. "Do whatever you want," he said. She took that as a yes, headed in, and started unpacking containers. Fried rice, lo mein, orange chicken, spring rolls. She found plates and divided the food. They sat at the kitchen table. Lucas picked at his food but did not eat much. Riley watched him and tried to figure out what to say. "I really am sorry," she said finally, "about the pond." "If I'd known." "Stop apologizing." His voice was firm but not quite yelling. "You repeat yourself over and over. I get it. You're sorry. Let's move on." "Do you want me to shut down the skating rink?" Riley asked. "I can." "We can say there's a safety issue. Close it for the rest of the festival." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. "No." "No?" she asked, the surprise evident in her tone. "Those kids deserve to skate. Those families deserve to make good memories on that pond." He pushed rice around his plate. "Just because my memories are painful doesn't mean theirs should be." Riley reached across the table, took his hand. "That's very generous." He pulled away. "It's practical. Shutting it down won't bring Lawson back, won't bring Cloris back. It'll just make me feel like I'm controlling something I can't control." "You should sleep," Riley said. "Is that your way of telling me I look like hell?" he asked. She laughed. "Okay, that sounded bad. But you're obviously not sleeping. Can't." "Keep waking up," he answered. "Nightmares?" "No," he said. Just awareness. That it's December. That Christmas is coming. That I'm supposed to be getting through this, and instead I feel like I'm drowning. Riley dried her hands and sat back down. What do you need? I don't know. To skip to January? To go back 5 years and tell Cloris to stay home that day? To have never agreed to this festival in the first place? Lucas rubbed his face. I don't know, Riley. Okay. Then what would help right now? Today? He looked at her. Really looked at her. Before he could answer, her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Boss, I need you. Our vendor ran out of cocoa mix. We need a backup. Riley texted back one-handed. Be right there. I have to go, she said. I hope you managed to get some rest. Thanks, Aurora, he said, and thank you for lunch. The weekend arrived with snow. Heavy, wet flakes that started Friday night and didn't stop until Sunday morning. The festival opened Saturday under white skies, the grounds transformed into something from a postcard. Riley managed vendors and crowds and kept checking her phone for weather updates. No storms, just steady snow, beautiful and manageable. Lucas came outside Saturday afternoon. Riley saw him standing on the terrace watching the festival. She waved. He didn't wave back, but he didn't leave either. Sunday he came out again. This time he walked down to the vendor booths. Riley watched from across the lawn as he stopped at a booth selling wood carvings, talked to the vendor for a minute, then moved on. He was trying. It was small, but it was something. Riley finished coordinating a confused family trying to find the bathroom and turned around to find Lucas standing behind her. Hi, she said. Hi. He shoved his hands in his coat pockets. Your crowd control is good. I haven't seen any bottlenecks. Thanks. We mapped out the flow patterns pretty carefully. They stood there. Families moved around them. Christmas music played from speakers near the stage. Lucas looked uncomfortable, but he stayed. Want to walk with me? Riley asked. I need to check the skating rink attendance. Sure. They walked toward the pond together. Riley checked numbers on her tablet, while Lucas looked at the skaters. Families gliding around. Children wobbling on rented skates. Teenagers showing off. I proposed to Cloris here, Lucas said suddenly. January, 7 years ago. The pond was frozen solid. I never dared skate on it after Lawson, you know. He paused. I had the ring in my pocket for a month, kept waiting for the perfect moment. Finally just asked her while we were sitting on that bench. He pointed to a bench at the pond's edge. Riley looked at the bench. A couple sat there now, holding hot chocolate, one of them snapping pictures with her phone. She said yes before I even finished the question, Lucas continued. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Best day of my life. I'm glad you have that memory, Riley said. Me too. Lucas watched the skaters. It hurts to watch this. But it also helps, weirdly. Seeing the pond being used for joy instead of just sitting there empty, full of ghosts. Yeah? Yeah. He looked at her. You were right to push for it. I wouldn't have agreed otherwise, and I think I needed this. Needed to see that the pond can be more than just where bad things happened. Riley wanted to hug him, but she smiled instead. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for listening. They stood together and watched families skate. After a while, Lucas said he should get back inside, but he patted her shoulder before he left. Progress. Small but real. December 23rd fell on a Thursday. Riley had no reason to go to the estate. The festival was closed until the weekend. But she thought about Lucas alone in that house on the anniversary of Cloris's death, and she couldn't stay away. She showed up at 3 p.m. with soup from the deli and fresh bread from the bakery. Lucas answered the door looking hollow. Red-rimmed eyes, pale skin, the kind of exhaustion that came from crying. You shouldn't be here, he said. Too bad. I brought food. Riley pushed past him into the kitchen. Riley, I'm not good company today. I'm not here for company. I'm here because you shouldn't be alone. She heated the soup while Lucas sat at the table and watched her. They ate without talking much. Lucas managed a few bites before pushing it away. "Do you believe in curses?" he asked. The question took her by surprise. "I suppose I don't, not really. I think you make your own luck, good or bad. My grandfather, the one who left me this estate, he had an affair when I was a kid, destroyed his marriage. My grandmother couldn't handle it. She had a breakdown, ended up in an institution." Lucas's voice went flat. The family tore apart. Half sided with her, half with him. I was 15 and I chose my grandfather. We were close. He raised me more than my parents did. I'm even named after him, Lucas James Thorne, just like him. That's not your fault. You were a kid. Tell that to my aunts who won't speak to me. To my cousins who think I'm complicit in what happened to her, Lucas said. Lawson died 3 years later. Christmas Eve, my favorite holiday. I kept thinking, this is punishment. For choosing wrong. For being born into wealth I didn't earn. For having everything handed to me while other people suffer. Riley shook her head. Lucas, I tried to fix it. Gave to charity, treated my employees well, visited my grandmother in the home even though she didn't recognize me half the time. Thought maybe if I was good enough, worked hard enough, the universe would let up. His laugh was bitter. Then I met Cloris. I thought maybe my luck had finally changed. 3 years later she was gone. Her and the baby, both. That's not how the world works, Riley said gently. Terrible things don't happen because you took your grandfather's side in a family fight. They just happen. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, everyone I love dies. Everything I touch falls apart. Maybe some people are just cursed. You're not cursed. Riley stepped closer. You've had terrible, unfair losses, but they're not connected to your choices as a teenager, or your grandfather's mistakes, or how much money your family has. That's just your brain trying to make sense of random tragedy by creating a pattern that doesn't exist. Lucas looked at her. How do you know? I grew up poor, really poor. All my clothes came from the church donation bin. Kids at school called them rags. One day the sole of my shoe came loose, and my dad bound it with duct tape because we couldn't afford new ones. I had to wear them to school like that. Riley paused. There was a dance. Everyone was going. I wanted one nice thing, just one night where I didn't feel like a charity case. Lucas listened. I stole a dress from the department store, snuck it out in my backpack, went to the dance and felt pretty for 3 hours. Then I crawled back in through my bedroom window and my dad was waiting. Riley picked at her food. We had a huge fight. I screamed at him, told him I hated our life, wished I'd been born to anyone else. And I saw his face. Just break. Riley, he said, you were a kid. Things were strained after that. I tried to make it up to him. Did chores without being asked. Kept my grades up. Got a job. But it never fully healed. There was this distance between us that hadn't been there before. She took a breath. 4 weeks later, he had a heart attack. And all I could think was, I did this. The stress I caused. That fight. Watching his daughter become someone who steals. I killed him. Lucas reached for her hand. She let him take it. I blamed myself for years. Thought I was cursed because I'd been ungrateful. Because I'd hurt the one person who loved me most. Every bad thing that happened after felt like proof. Lost a big contract. Punishment. Investor backed out. Punishment. Car broke down. Punishment. Riley looked at him. But curses aren't real, Lucas. I know because if they were, I'd still be living in that guilt. Instead, I finally talked to a therapist who helped me understand that my dad had high blood pressure and high cholesterol and a family history of heart disease. That teenage girls say cruel things when they're hurting and ashamed. That I was a kid who just wanted to feel pretty for one night. And that's not evil. It's just sad. Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Is that why you work so hard? The business? Part of it. I'm terrified of being poor again, of ending up with nothing like I had as a kid. But I'm also trying to prove something, to myself, to my dad's memory, that I'm not that scared girl who stole a dress, that I can build something good. Riley squeezed his hand. You're trying to prove something too, that you're not cursed, that you can be good enough to deserve happiness. But Lucas, you already deserve it. You always did. Not because you earned it, but because you're human. Thank you, he said, and she smiled. We're two pretty messed up people, I guess. She let out an awkward chuckle. No, he replied. We're just two flawed humans trying to do our best. Chapter 5. The final day of the festival arrived December 22nd. Riley stood near the vendor booths checking inventory on her tablet when she noticed movement on the terrace. Lucas came down the steps. He'd shaved. His hair was combed. He wore a dark coat over a button-down shirt and actually looked put together. Hi, he said when he reached her. Hi. You look nice. Thought I should make an effort. Last day and all. He shoved his hands in his pockets. Can I help with anything? Riley blinked. The hot chocolate station could use someone. Jenna's been running it solo and we're getting slammed. I can do that. Lucas walked over to the station. Jenna handed him an apron and he tied it on without complaint. A family with 3 kids approached. Can we have 5 hot chocolates? The mother asked. 3 with marshmallows, 2 without. Coming right up. Lucas poured carefully, added marshmallows to 3 cups. Here you go. They're hot. Thank you, the mother said. You're welcome. Enjoy the festival. Riley pulled out her phone and texted Marcus. Lucas is serving hot chocolate and talking to children. Marcus replied, Christmas miracle. Riley watched him continue through the festival. He stopped at the wood carving booth and bought something, a small carved owl. He helped a lost child find her parents, crouching down to the girl's level. What does your mom look like? Lucas asked gently. She has a blue coat and yellow hair. Okay, let's find her together. Can you hold my hand? The girl took his hand and they walked toward the food vendors. 2 minutes later, Riley heard a mother's relieved cry and saw Lucas hand the child back safely. Around 7 o'clock, the carolers gathered for their final performance. Riley was checking the sound system when she heard a strong baritone join the group. Lucas stood with the carolers, a songbook in his hands. He sang O Holy Night with a clear, confident voice that carried across the lawn. People stopped to listen. Morgan appeared at Riley's side. Is that my brother? Singing? In public? Apparently, Riley replied, and he has a good voice. He was in choir in high school. I haven't heard him sing in years. Morgan pulled out her phone. I need to record this. No one will believe me. Lucas moved through all 3 verses without missing a note. When the song ended, the crowd applauded. He looked embarrassed but stayed for 2 more carols. The festival closed at 9. Families filtered out slowly. Vendors packed up. The crew started breaking down equipment. Lucas helped Marcus carry folding tables to the van. Thanks for the assist, Marcus said. No problem. Where do these go? Lucas asked. Just stack them by the back doors, Marcus said, pointing. By 10 o'clock, most of it was done. Riley stood near her van making final notes when Lucas approached. Long day, he said. Good day, though. Really good. Riley smiled. I actually got 2 new clients today. Business owners who saw the festival and want me to coordinate events for them. That's excellent. Congratulations. Thank you. And thank you for today. For being here. For participating. It meant a lot, Riley said. Lucas looked back at the grounds. The lights still glowed even though the crowds were gone. It felt good, being part of something instead of just watching from my window. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lucas said, Would you want to have dinner with me? Or coffee? Day after Christmas? His words took her by surprise. The 26th, she asked. Yeah, I know it's right after the holiday, but I thought maybe you'd be back from your mum's by then," he explained. Riley felt warmth spread through her chest. "I'd love to." "Dinner sounds perfect." 7 o'clock? I could pick you up or we could meet somewhere," he offered. "Meet me at that Italian place on 3rd Street. "Marcello's," she said. "Marcello's, 7 o'clock. It's a date." Lucas paused. "An actual date. I should clarify that, not just colleagues having dinner." Riley laughed. "I understood. An actual date. Good. Okay, good." He looked nervous. It was kind of adorable. "Drive safe," Riley said. "You too." After he left, Riley sat in her van for a minute, smiling and feeling like a schoolgirl. Marcus knocked on the window. "You look happy," he said when she rolled it down. "I have a date," she announced. "With the grumpy estate owner," he teased. "He's not grumpy anymore." "Well, less grumpy?" Marcus grinned. "Good for you, boss. You deserve it." Christmas morning, Lucas woke early. He showered, dressed in a Christmas sweater, and drove to Morgan's house. He knocked instead of using the spare key. Morgan answered wearing pajamas and holding a coffee mug. Her mouth fell open. "Lucas?" "Merry Christmas. Can I come in?" "Can you—" "Yes, obviously. Get in here." She grabbed his arm and pulled him inside. "Mom! Lucas is here." Their mother appeared from the kitchen. She looked at Lucas standing in the entry hall and her eyes filled with tears. "Merry Christmas, Mom," Lucas said. She crossed the room and hugged him. "You came." "Here, I brought this." He handed her a box. "It's cookies from that deli on Main." Morgan's husband appeared with their 2 kids. The kids ran to Lucas yelling, "Uncle Lucas!" and he found himself crouching down to hug them. Breakfast was chaos. The kids opened presents while the adults drank coffee. Lucas sat on the couch and let the noise wash over him. It felt good. Around noon, his mother sat next to him. "You seem different." "I feel different," he said. "I saw a video of you singing at the festival." She pinched his cheek. "My little star." "That's enough," he said playfully. "Your grandfather knew what he was doing when he wrote that will." "Having people around has been good for you," she said. "I was beginning to worry." "We all were. You're too young to be cooped up inside that old place all day." "There's something else," he started. "I have a date tomorrow night." "A date?" She said it loud enough for all heads to turn toward him. "Lucas, that's wonderful." "With Riley?" Morgan's voice was playful, teasing. "Who's Morgan?" his mother asked. "The event coordinator," Morgan replied. "The one who handled the festival." "I saw her watching you." "It's terrifying," Lucas admitted. "I haven't dated in almost a decade." "I don't know what I'm doing." "No one ever does," his mother replied. "You just show up and be yourself." "No one can resist my boy." He stayed all night and then helped clean up, played a board game with the kids, sat through Morgan's slideshow of family photos. When he left, his mother hugged him at the door. "Come back soon. Don't wait for another holiday." "I won't, I promise." Driving home, Lucas felt lighter than he had in years. December 26th arrived with heavy clouds and the promise of snow. Lucas changed clothes 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a charcoal sweater. He arrived at Marcello's 5 minutes early and waited outside. Riley appeared at 7 on the dot, wearing a dark green dress and a coat, her hair down around her shoulders. "Hi," she said. "Hi, you look beautiful." "Thanks," she said. "You look nervous." "I am nervous." "I haven't done this in a very long time," he smiled. "Me neither," Riley confirmed. "Want to be nervous together?" "Absolutely." He offered his arm, and she took it. They went inside. The restaurant was small and warm, candles on every table. They ordered wine and pasta and talked easily about everything and nothing. The snow fell outside, the wine flowed, and for the first time since Cloris died, Lucas Thorne looked forward to tomorrow. The end.